Welcome back to the Two Bucks Sports Podcast here with Buckets and Uncle Buck. Wednesday night, week after Thanksgiving. Drew, I don't know about you, but I think I'm just now coming out of my turkey and food coma.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think that I personally, and I don't know if this is popular or not, I personally believe that Thanksgiving is the best holiday of the year.
Absolutely.
Uh, okay, so you agree with me?
Absolutely. It's not even
And
close.
and I don't know what it is other than I mean, the food's good. The food's not elite, but you get it every year, and it seems like it just feels like Thanksgiving when you eat turkey and dressing.
Yeah.
And dressing is one of those things too. Like it can be amazing or it can just be
Yeah.
garbage, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's the familiarity, it's the
Mhm.
family, and
Mhm.
it's the football.
Yeah.
3F. I did not plan that. The 3Fs of Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I
and
agree, man. And like you said, there's just some foods that just taste like Thanksgiving, right? Like you get your dressing, your sweet potato casserole, like certain things that we do a couple of traditions of my mom makes a pecan pie. We have what we call a dump salad, like things that you just have on Thanksgiving that make it special.
Dump salad sounds like what Ole Miss played Thursday night.
Hey,
But
we'll
we'll
get
get
to
to that. We'll get to that. Um, yeah, and it's a holiday in which you get together with all your family, which is always fun.
that.
It's too much travel, like every other holiday, so that kind of washes.
Yeah.
But the expectation of showing up without presents this
Mhm.
close to
Yep.
Christmas is one of the most underrated aspects of Thanksgiving. It's all the family, none of the pressure. You
None of
don't
the
even really
stress.
have to dress up. You come as you are. You're expected to be fat and lazy. You're going to eat too much. You're going to lay on that couch and you're going to watch the Lions lose a football game. I
Yeah.
mean, it is the expectations of the reality of Thanksgiving is what I wish every day was. You
Yeah.
know, it
Yeah.
is just eating good food, taking a good nap, and watching a little bit of football.
And I don't get these families. And if your family is one of these, like, please explain it to me. Like, my family has always been very casual for Thanksgiving. We are fixing to commit gluttony, like, and celebrate it. So we wear sweatpants, athletic shorts. My cousin Mary always posts that the best thing about being a mom is that your maternity pants become turkey pants, and so you can wear whatever, right?
Yeah,
I don't get it.
if you're wearing pants with a zipper to Thanksgiving, then you're not getting the full experience of Thanksgiving.
Clearly not. They've never
And
been to a good Thanksgiving.
and Thanksgiving in Mississippi can go two ways too. It's either going to be 10 degrees or it's going to be 80 degrees.
Yep.
And so it's either shorts or sweatpants, and either way, it's going to have elastic in the band.
And if your grandparents are anything like mine, it's gonna be 80 degrees in the house regardless. So you're gonna sweat, man. You get the meat
Oh yeah,
sweat.
yeah.
So give me athletic shorts and a t-shirt all
Under
day.
yeah, you got to have the sweatpants for outside, but the gym shorts underneath it.
That's it,
It's like
man.
rec league basketball. You're just gonna rip them pants off as soon as you walk in grandma's house because it is 87 degrees in the
Absolutely.
winter or summer.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
enough Thanksgiving talk. We have some exciting news. Uh, this is going to be the first new podcast that we will be able to publish as an actual podcast.
Yeah.
We're going to be able, we have got all of our backlogged episodes on Spotify. And then tonight is Wednesday night, November the 30th. And then hopefully, as soon as this is over, we're going to compress this down and rip the audio out, and we'll have it on Spotify tonight. Uh, I'm sure most people will listen to it on the first. Uh, our Spotify is $2 Sports Podcast. We'll put the link on all of our social media channels, which is also new. We have a Twitter. It's at $2 Sports Pod, and we have an Instagram under the same name, $2 Sports Pod.
The number
And
two.
the number two, yeah, the number 2 Bucks Sports Pod on Instagram and Twitter, and we have the links to our Spotify page on our bios on both of them. So keep a lookout on our socials because currently, right now, if you search the podcast, you're not able to find it by searching it, but that link in our bios will take you directly to the podcast until um, we can make it searchable.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're also on some of your other favorite channels. We're on Amazon. We're on Google Podcasts. We are on Samsung Podcasts. So we are on different channels through RSS Community. It kind of broad distributes them. So if you get your podcast on any of those, you can listen to it there. And then if you enjoy seeing our smiling faces while we're doing this podcast, we're still going to be on YouTube. Those will still be posted as well.
Absolutely. Well, with that little bit of housekeeping going on, you want to get into rivalry week?
Yes, I do, baby. Yes, I do. Hail State, baby. We're going to start off with the only game that really matters. And that was a victory for my Bulldogs in Oxford, Mississippi. Let's go. Hail State, baby. Started off Thanksgiving Day. I'd eaten myself silly. I'd been sitting out in the chilly-ish weather, deer hunting all day. And I was stressed, Drew. You know, we've had an up and down year in Starkville this year. Will Rogers has not been the quarterback we thought he would be every game. You know, you've got the LSU Will Rogers who just absolutely craps the bed. You got the Arkansas Will Rogers that's like friggin' Dan Marino. And there's never really anything in between.
Well, and it's predictable too. It's whether you're at home or you're on the road. And you were on the road.
Yep. So we're 6-1 at home. You know, 3-4 on the road, like 3-3 on the road. It's not great, but we came through, man. We came through. There was the rain kind of slowed down Ole Miss's offense. Y'all's offense came in hot-ish after the Arkansas game, maybe not so much. But you know, this game is already being called the slide and slap. The two they blew, like it's all the slide and slap, baby. Shout out to Randy Charlton, big play there at the goal line. You know, Mississippi State tried their best to Mississippi State. Will Rogers, who is very well known as a mobile quarterback, obviously, decided to have a gaffe at the goal line and fumble at the 1-yard line.
I've got a 10-month-old daughter that's more athletic than Will Rogers.
Absolutely, man. When you're running in for a touchdown and you bounce the ball off your own hip on your own volition, like, come on, man.
Well, and let's be honest here. Ole Miss did come in off. I mean, they sputtered. There's no way around it. And last week when we talked about after the Arkansas game, I told you, I said this team is distracted. The lane stuff is out there. They're distracting them, and it bled in. And I'm not going to take any credit away from Mississippi State, despite their best efforts. Despite their best efforts to lose that game, they won it.
We overcame 3 turnovers, but like you're saying, man, I'm going to take credit here because we held Junkins, the obvious SEC freshman of the year, to his lowest yards per carry average of 4.1. D-line was dominant. Is his third worst total offense performance, randomly behind Vanderbilt and Troy in total yards, 91 rushing yards.
And that was because he was the second string back early in the season.
And so D-line was dominant, played a great game. I'll give you the fact that Kiffin was probably distracted a little bit. The defense played their tails off. But I think my favorite Egg Bowl stat, and I'll kick it back to you after this, 2 things. Number 1, Malik Heath is now 0-3 in Egg Bowls. He lost 2 in a row in Starkville, transfers to Oxford.
You love the fact he lost those 2 from Mississippi State, don't you? You just overlook. I'm so glad that he lost those 2 games the previous 2 years when he played for you guys.
Overlook that because he lost the most recent one. And then big news today out of Starkville, and I'll wrap it up. Buki, the SEC leader in tackles, Nathaniel Watson's coming back for his senior year, baby. Let's go. Hail State. Big victory in Oxford this week.
I tell you what, it's not very often that the SEC leader in tackles, I can't name him. So, congratulations, Bookie.
Yeah, coming back, baby. It's funny.
There's nothing better than there's nothing more overblown than returning seniors, because if they had any shot of going pro and getting drafted, they would be gone. So I mean, yeah, enjoy your college career. It's probably your peak, and ride it out. But let's not pretend like if he was Willie Gay, he'd be gone. You know,
that's fair. But still excited to have him back. Obviously, a good college player, was a very impact player for us this year. He did miss a few games due to injury this year, so that could be playing part of it. Either way, he's back. Egg Bowls or the Egg Trophies in Starkville. Let's go.
Yeah, and you know, there are great college football players every year that, for one reason or another, don't make it into the pros, and that should not disparage the greatness of guys like Chad Kelly, who's I'll go on record. I've said it before, but I've never said it on a podcast. He's the best quarterback to play at Ole Miss, and we have two Mannings whose numbers are retired. He was the best college quarterback that we had, and he quarterbacked the best teams that Ole Miss ever had, and so that's neither here nor there. Real quick question, then we're going to move on. If Ole Miss makes that 2-point conversion, or say they kick that field goal instead of going for it, and we go down instead of needing a touchdown and 2-point conversion, we win it with that touchdown after Will Rogers fumbles after inexplicably carrying the football on the 1-yard line. Is Leach the coach next year, or is he out of there so quick under the guise of retirement or whatever you want to call it? He would have went 0-3 in Egg Bowls.
I think he'd have been in really hot water, but I think he'd have had one more year. I don't like who we're going to go get. Like we're not going to get Dion. Like there's nobody else to go get. I don't think Trigger would be that pulled that quick, but he would be on a much hotter seat next year.
And he's not a coach you want to have when you're losing either, because he does not toe any party line, and he is a loose cannon on the microphone, and I can't imagine being more miserable than listening to that coach after a loss.
Let me tell you, man, like the jokes are funny. The fat little girlfriend jokes are funny when you're winning, but when you're not competitive,
they're really funny when you're losing and you're a fan of Ole Miss.
I mean, that's fair.
But
I can tell you, they got less and less funny.
I genuinely thought Ole Miss would never lose to Mississippi State with our current head coaches. I believe that all Leach teams have a hard ceiling, and they never win their rivalry games. It's a fact. It goes back everywhere he's ever been. And
that's true. And the reason we won was not Mike Leach. Mike Leach gets paid.
That's true. You won despite Mike Leach.
He gets paid $5 million a year. He owes Zach Arnett $4.9 million because our defense and our defensive coordinator is the only reason we won a large majority of our games this year.
He called a heck of a game because Ole Miss is a team that spreads you out and runs well in the spread offense. Yeah. And Arnett ran cover zero blitzes in the middle of the field all night long, exposing his corners all night long.
When you got a man,
Ole Miss couldn't do anything about it. And Ole Miss couldn't adjust. They hit that lull like they've hit in every game this year where they can't move the ball for 2 quarters at a time. And nothing was more disheartening than watching that running back who apparently was about to lose a limb the whole game, Marks.
With that hip flexor,
just running in the A gap all night long. It was like Chris Ralph was the quarterback. Watching a Leach offense run the ball up the gut for 4 yards a time was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my whole life.
Listen, man, all that matters. Dogs win again. Big shout out Zach Arnett, held Ole Miss, who came in averaging well over 200 yards rushing over the last few games to 78 yards rushing. Really shut that down, like you said, with those blitzes up the middle. Play some great football. Hail State, Dogs win again.
It was you won it. Congratulations. I'll leave it at that. I'm not a sore loser. I'll give you credit. I think some things could have worked out better and didn't fall our way, but it is what it is. You can't make excuses when you lose, or else you're called a big old titty baby, and that ain't me.
No.
So, all right, let's go on to hit a few more of these rivalry week games. Quick, just because I'm struggling with it, say rivalry week 3 times fast.
Oh my gosh, I've been struggling all day when I'm working on this.
I have said rivalry week. I feel like every single time I've said it today.
So many W's, man. So many W's.
All right. The next biggest game, it was definitely the biggest game nationwide, second biggest game to Mississippians. The Ohio State-Michigan game was a stunner. I'll be honest with you. I was hoping that game was at night. We had family stuff. We were traveling, and I was like, okay, good. I can be back home in time for a 6 o'clock kick. And about 12, I was checking my phone just to see who was playing, and it was in the second quarter, and I was like, crap. And I wasn't home, so I got home just in time to see the end of it. But by the end of it, it was over.
Oh, yeah.
Michigan went to Ohio State and just torqued them. It
Absolutely.
was Ohio State was leading at the half 20-17, and Michigan blows them out in the second half 28-3. To It's about the only outcome for Ohio State that would have dropped them out of the top four. I believe that.
Yeah.
Because if they lose that game close,
Mm-hmm.
then they're going to get the benefit of the doubt. But the fact that they 28-3,
Yeah.
like they went full Atlanta Falcons in that second half
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
got smoked that bad, it dropped them to 5. That's the only reason why USC dropped them, and I believe it.
You give me that final score, I'm going to tell you 10 times out of 10, Ohio State won that game. The eye test, watching them all year, I thought C.J. Stroud was the truth. I thought their defense was much better than what Michigan had faced. I thought Ohio State was going to absolutely dump truck Michigan. And, I mean, it couldn't have been any more opposite for sure.
Well, and Michigan, I would not have said that going into it, that they would dump truck them, as you put it. Michigan's physical. They've built that team like an NFL team. They are not built like a team that gets blown out. You know, I think Michigan's good, and Michigan earned a lot of respect from me last year for winning at home against Ohio State. Now they went and got beat by Georgia in the first round of the playoff. Georgia went on to crush everybody. There's no shame in that, but I still wasn't ready to put them above above Ohio State. And I still don't know that I'm ready to say the torch is passed, but they're equals. This is not a fluke. They've always had the players since Harbaugh's gotten there. And it's like they needed to bust through that glass ceiling. And last year they did it. I still think they're going to get crushed by Georgia again this year.
Who's not?
But that they're good. They're real good.
I'll say this, man, too. Like, I've been reading a lot online. Like, it's the state of your program when you lose one game and your coach is on the hot seat. But Ryan Day, like, back-to-back losses to Michigan, haven't beat Michigan 1,000 days. And, like, there are people that are not happy with just the adjustments he doesn't make. The game planning seems to be off for the big games. Like, he wins regular season games that they're supposed to win really well. Ryan Day struggled in the big games, man.
Well, and it's one of those things. He didn't build that program.
No.
And it's kind of the reason why Lincoln Riley deserves a ton of credit this year. It's like the thing that Ohio State fans, the entrenched ones, the fanatics like we are for Ole Miss and State, they're in that, and they're emotional, and they obviously want to beat Michigan more than they want to breathe their next breath. Yeah. And I sympathize with that. I've been in a very dark place for 6 days now. But if he can't beat Michigan, and that's really the only competition he has, that's different than coming to SEC and going 9-3 when teams like Ole Miss and Mississippi State play Alabama and Auburn and LSU every year. And then every so often you get a Georgia or you get a hot Kentucky team or whatever. That's the marker. Michigan State's down, Wisconsin's down, and outside of them, there are no real quote unquote powers or teams you expect to be good.
Michigan's playing Purdue in the Big Ten championship game, and Purdue won 7 games. Like, they're not great now. They are known to be giant killers, but they're just not a good football team.
And speaking of giant killers, the next game we're going to talk about. Beamer ball in Columbia, South Carolina.
Man, full force.
I believe I told you this. You went Clemson in your picks last week, and I told you anything Rusty picks, I'm going to pick better because I'm just going opposite. But truly, I understood the you're on the mountain and you're having to play the next week, but the next week is a rivalry game, and that team finished 8-4. That's a heck of an accomplishment for Shane Beamer.
Yeah.
And he, Rattler went 25 of 39 for 360, 2 touchdowns. He did have 2 picks, but you compare that to Clemson, who had 99 passing yards on the game. DJ, we'll call him Ukulele, 8 for 29, a touchdown and a pick, and a 27.5 QBR. and South Carolina outscored Clemson 17-7 in the second half. Just Beamer ball. I mean, it was defense and special teams. Rattler was good, and he wasn't great, but he was good enough to win it. And it took late game heroics. I mean, there was only one. South Carolina scored a touchdown in the fourth quarter. It was the only score for either team in the fourth quarter. So it turned into a defensive battle late. And props to South Carolina.
Yeah.
And any bowl game that wants to have fans that are hungry and want to go down, have a big draw where fans come down that are hungry and just going to drink all the beer in Florida, better call South Carolina, because those folks are going to be just rabid at a bowl game.
So a couple thoughts here. I live in Carolina country, so I get a lot of both of these teams. And you're absolutely right, man. There's a lot of hope that they're going to be in the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville or in one of the Orlando Bowls, just because they're hungry. There's a talk of them playing Notre Dame, so they've got a big draw team that they'll be playing. And then, even from some Clemson fans, I'm hearing that they're concerned. They're worried that Ukulele, as you dubbed him, has some compromising information or photos or something.
No.
Only way to describe his loyalty to somebody who is a bad quarterback.
And Dabo's showing some chinks in the armor. I'm ready to quit talking about Clemson. I'll be honest with you. And it may be a little early. I don't think it is. I think the last 3 or 4 years, I'd have to look back at it. They've had that key loss every year, and they've overcome it because the ACC's been good enough to where you can get enough good wins and overcome it. But much like Michigan, Ohio State, the ACC is just like the Big 12 without that second good team. And honestly, the best team in the ACC may be Florida State.
Yeah,
I don't buy it. There's chinks in the armor. Dabo, who is got that Hugh Freeze kind of feel to him. Just a nice, good old pastor-like demeanor. He is getting like defensive with reporters, saying if you think anybody can do better, then you just need to find you another coach. He's really digging his heels in the media, and it's signs of just kind of crumbling a little bit. And crumbling doesn't mean he's going 3-9 next year, but it means that I would be shocked if they challenge for a playoff spot.
Yeah, I agree, man. Brett Venables is not walking through that door, and their defense has not.
He might be. He might be. Oklahoma's 6-6. They make them right back in that door.
Listen, that's what I tell all my Tennessee friends. You just better hope and pray Venables turns it around in Oklahoma. If not, they're going to back the armored truck up to Knoxville and steal Josh Heupel. Shout out to Zach Jones. But yeah, man, like South Carolina's played a great couple of weeks of football. First time in program history with back-to-back top 10 wins, man. And Shane Beamer is the guy you'll run through a wall for. Just a great motivator. The kids are bought in. They're passionate. There's a buzz around South Carolina football here for the first time really since Steve Spurrier was there. So, shout out to Gamecocks, man. That's a good win for them.
Yeah, props to them. The next game, let's hit on LSU and A&M. We can talk briefly. Ultimately, I didn't watch much of it, but I don't really care what it looked like. LSU should have won that game.
Yeah.
They had a chance to backdoor into the playoff with a big win in the SEC championship game. They blew it. They really messed in their own pants here. And I don't really know what else to do. Maybe it'll get Texas A&M up to get them cocky again going into next year, because I'd love for them to have that hype again and just be terrible.
Be number 6 overall in the it'd be like Tennessee, man, number 6 in the preseason polls and fall out. I did watch some of it, flipping between Tennessee and Vandy.
You flipped to Tennessee and Vandy?
Yeah, for a little bit, man, but it was a massacre. But Moose Muhammad's sensational catch, man, that one-handed grab in the end zone. If you hadn't seen that highlight, it is one of the
haven't actually.
Man, he was double covered, threw his arm out, caught it in the cradle. I mean, it was an incredible catch for a touchdown, and just a phenomenal play.
Fun fact, you know who his daddy is, don't you?
Oh, yeah, Moose, baby. Machine Muhammad played for the Bears and the Panthers. Absolutely.
Yeah. Georgia alum. I remember Moose. Yeah. Yep. And I was like, it didn't click with me initially, but I was like, how that's too close to not be. And sure enough,
Yeah.
That's his boy. That's how old we're getting.
Yeah, he's normally in the stands at the games. They showed him a lot this year. I think he was there that night. They showed him a bit after the catch, but man, like, yeah, absolutely. What a phenomenal catch. Great play. And otherwise,
Now,
a football game.
Mushan Mohammed, wasn't he medically retired from the NFL for a hand injury or something? I thought I remember seeing something like that. It was
Yeah.
on the on my come up into the NFL. I'm a little
Yeah.
fuzzy that far back, but
He was with the Panthers for a long time. He finished with the Bears, and there was some type of injury. I don't remember what it was that ended his career, but he was
it
like,
was like a nerve damage thing to where he kind of had paralysis in his hands.
I think you're right, man. It was definitely a bad injury, but he was that guy that like he was a great compliment to Steve Smith on those teams, because Steve Smith was that quick guy that would take the top off the defense, and Muhammad was the guy you went to when you needed a first down. He was a big target, like 6'5", 6'6", big target, possession type, first down type receiver. Yeah, man, big shout out Machine Muhammad for sure.
Yep. All right, well, let's rip the Band-Aid off. I had to eat crow about my Ole Miss, about the Egg Bowl. I'm gonna celebrate now and let you eat crow. Let's talk about Rusty's what you call get rich picks, but what he did not specify is the only people getting rich here is the bookie.
Yeah, man. So a couple things on that, man. First of all, this segment is brought to you by Bill's Pawn Shop in Corinth, Mississippi. It's at 901 Meg Street. Call that Money Street, baby.
Money
Take
Street.
your winnings there. Get your old lady something nice this holiday season.
He'll rip you off just as quick as Rusty will.
Absolutely. Man, like, so you've mentioned this a couple times on the podcast, man. It's the whole Chris Berman philosophy, right? Like I tell you what to do, you do the opposite, right? Like I'm subtle about it. Like I tell you what to pick, you pick the opposite. Went 1-6.
Well, you need to disclose that on the front end. That's what you're messing up. All of our listeners here are just poor. We're gonna lose listeners because they can't afford a phone bill to listen to a podcast.
Well, listen, man. 1-6 this week. It was a tough week. The only one I got right is the only one that matters. I picked my dogs to win. But man, like, this was a rough week, man. Yeah.
I'm checking my record here. I was 6-1.
Yeah.
Fade Rusty.
Absolutely, man. That's your strategy.
And nothing was more embarrassing than you picking Vanderbilt.
I know.
I should come take you.
So
I need to come take your keys.
I learned my lesson.
Responsible decision.
I picked against Josh Heupel twice when he was on the revenge tour, and that's my bad. I picked him both times after a loss. I picked him to lose again, or at least not cover, and Heupel made a believer out of me.
Yeah,
so,
well, you're trying to kick the man while he's down. He's got some pride, and he's playing Vanderbilt.
Well, Vandy, man, they beat Florida, they beat Kentucky, they came in hot. I was feeling Vandy, hoping they get bowl eligible, but it was not to happen.
Well, this is a football heavy podcast because we have hit rivalry week. We're looking at SEC conference championship games next week, but in the middle there was Black Friday, and we had coaching carousel, and it all seemed to break. The straw that broke the camel's back. Everybody was waiting on Lane Kiffin, and word started changing on Friday morning that Lane was staying. It was starting to get out. Since then, it's been reported and talked about by journalists that cover Ole Miss that really tide started turning on Wednesday. That report came out, on Monday from the reporter for WCBI in Columbus, and Lane handled that as poorly as possible, and it made him mad. But ultimately, it seemed like the inside the program, tide started turning on Wednesday, which begs the question to me as an Ole Miss fan who believes that the team was distracted. Why didn't you address it then and put it in stone? And but ultimately, Lane Kiffin signs a $9 million deal with Ole Miss, $9 million per year. It puts him at in the top 10 in college football. Now, you pay your top 10 money, you're going to have to start expecting top 10 results. And not saying that's anything that's built overnight. Ole Miss is not a top 10 team right now, and they don't have top 10 players. Ultimately, I was ready to hate him I truly was. I think he handled everything as poorly as you could. But as I told you last week, I believe that Ole Miss's best chances of success right now is if
Mm.
he stays.
Yeah.
And he would have left Ole Miss in a better spot than what he found it. But ultimately, Lane Kiffin is a better coach than Coach B
Mm.
that would have been named Ole Miss's coach. And so he's left himself in kind of a pickle with the fan base, and he's going to have to, shake a few more hands and kiss a few more babies than he would like to kind of garner that trust. But ultimately, win
Yeah.
games and don't let this happen again without leaving. We can't do it again.
Here's the thing, man. Like the question then is, Drew, are you prepared to do this every off season? Because this is Jimmy Sexton's MO. This is Lane Kiffin's MO. They like the attention. It got an extension. It's an opportunity to make more money.
And
are you prepared for this to happen again about this time next year?
No, I'm not. And
all right.
And I think that's fair. I think it's fair to say that he's the best coach for us. And
I'm not arguing.
And I'm not expecting him to, be declare a rebel for life. We're not doing that true blue. Like, I don't expect you, but also, we're equal. If you want to go, then go, but let it be an upgrade. Auburn is not. Auburn's not, and so if you're going to go, I hope if he gets an offer next year, it's because we're still winning. Losing coaches do not get recruited to go coach other places. That's just a fact. Ole Miss has only lost one coach in my lifetime to another school, and it's because he was doing a good job at Ole Miss. So you've got your schools that you want to go to, but I'm done with the whole stringing the fan base and stringing the team along for a raise. I know it's going to happen, and that's fine, but it doesn't mean I'm going to be happy about it either.
Yeah, that's what Jimmy Sexton does, man. His clients do that. They like the attention, good, bad, and different. And I'm telling you, man, like this is going to be the MO for Lane Kiffin, Jimmy Sexton, as long as you're your coach, man. We'll have
that's
the same
fine,
conversation a year from now.
Then that, good on you, because Jimmy Sexton and Lane Kiffin got Lane Kiffin a $2 million per year raise. And so good on them, but you're going to have to at least come out stronger and deny it. You can't let it linger. There's ways to go about it.
But there's no extra money in that, man. If you deny it right off, then you'll get paid.
Yeah, but the team, what he tells the team does not affect what Ole Miss gives him. They were going to match any offer they were going to do. They lost 3 out of their last 4 games and still gave him a $2 million raise. It had nothing to do with that, So, anyways, we've got another big coaching change in the SEC, and we have another new sponsor. We've got Bill's Pawn Shop on Money Street, and this next one is brought to you. I'll just read the ad for you. It's written here. They typed it up for us. Where do you go when you need something for yourself, but don't necessarily have the money to buy it new off the shelf? Come on down to Lorraine's Benton Dent on Wheeler Grove Road in Corinth, Mississippi. At Lorraine's, you can buy everyone else's crap they don't want. Also, have something you want to get rid of? Come drop off that mess at Lorraine's, and we'll make you an offer so low that you will get insulted, but still leave it, because making no money is better than taking this crap back home with you. Lorraine's Benton Dent, serving grandmothers since 1926. So, speaking of secondhand goods, Auburn hires Hugh Freeze.
Hey.
And listen, Hugh Freeze has paid his penance, but I'm not the bigger man here, and I'm not above making my jokes, because Auburn said they were the better job. They were puffing their chests out all week. We're going to get Ole Miss's coach because we're Auburn and they're Ole Miss. And our coach decided to stay, and they went and got the coach Ole Miss fired. 4 calls, saving them $15 million of buyout money. And, unfortunately, in the same breath, it's the best hire they could have made, and it scares me a little.
Yeah, and it's funny, like the only person that I've seen on Auburn Twitter that has acknowledged this is a good hire is Bruce Pearl. And the irony on that cannot be missed.
I'm not listening to Bruce Pearl slander.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like Bruce Pearl, like I saw a news break this week that the NCAA is opening a compliance office on Auburn's campus with those two there.
Well, Hugh Freeze deserves it. Bruce Pearl does not. He had a barbecue. Okay, the NCAA can
still get the
kick
rules,
rocks.
Absolutely. I agree.
If Bruce Pearl would have told the AD to hire Rick Barnes, Rick Barnes should be the football coach. I'm telling you, like Bruce Pearl is an incredible basketball coach, and if he's the voice of reason, there are worse people to be your voice of reason.
Man, like of all universities, like that fits, man. Like Auburn's a dirty university; they can hide a lot of stuff, a lot of dark money, man. Like this hire makes sense for Auburn. There's nowhere else.
Well, Auburn's got that complex where they're better than everybody, and that's earned by their boosters, and their boosters feel like they need to be part of the program. It's what Nick Saban cleaned up at Alabama. Alabama used to be this way, and Nick Saban told everybody to get out of the way.
Yeah,
and Lane Kiffin would have been a terrible hire at Auburn because he would have told those boosters to get out of the way, and they would have hung him out to dry, much like they did Brian Harsin. He would not have played well in that lecture circuit that they're wanting him to go to all the Baptist churches. And Hugh Freeze is your guy if you want him to come speak. That's just that. And he's a good football coach. He's a good recruiter. If I was an Auburn fan, I wouldn't be worried about the off the field stuff. He's paid his penance. It's been a long time now. And they took his Twitter away.
They did. That's one of the stipulations in the contract is no social media. And I think I saw in the fine print, no burner phones either. So we'll see what happens.
No, that would not be in the contract. It'll be a school issued burner phone. Believe me. Yeah. What does that say about your program that you admittedly hired the guy, but you can't trust him with Twitter? Like,
not only that, but they hired a new PR firm to help cover up and help work with it. So like
that's just business. That's just business. Yeah.
Clearly you don't trust this guy.
No, you do that to make that hire go through. That was the best guy for the job. And
clearly you don't trust the reaction, that's for sure.
Well, whether it's good or bad, the reaction in this day and time lasts 24 to 48 hours. And it's over. So they hired that PR firm to take the beating and tell them how to navigate it until it's passed. And
nothing.
It'll be long gone by the time Labor Day gets here.
And not only that, but winning cures everything. If he steps in and they win 6, 7, 8 ball games that first year, it'll all be forgiven.
Honestly, if I were to step back and genuinely say who would be the better coach for Auburn, Hugh or Lane, it's Hugh Freeze.
I agree. He's much more that like shaking hands, kissing babies kind of guy than Lane Kiffin. And that's what they want down there.
And I believe that both schools are the better for what happened.
That's fair.
Real quick, the other big, the big hire, Luke Fickell leaves Cincinnati to go to Wisconsin. It was always rumored that he wanted that Big Ten job. He feels like a Big Ten dude. Yeah. Wisconsin is a really awesome program that's been down. I believe it's a great hire.
I agree. I think that's going to be a home run for both parties. I think Luke Fickell will find some success there. And, man, hey, I'm all about some competition for Ohio State, man. Let's go Badgers, man. Go get them.
Yeah. I mean, good home field, great environment, great fans.
Madison looks like a great time.
Yeah, it does. And I'm all for that. I think it's good. And I don't know if he'd had the same success at an SEC school, but I'm all for who I think are good coaches going outside of the SEC.
Yeah. And I think he seems like a good dude. He seems like he does it the right way. And I'm a big fan of this hire for sure. Other real quick breaking news tonight before we dive into a little bit more stuff. Kentucky QB1 Will Levis is declared for the NFL draft tonight. I think I hear Aaron Ivey being a little upset about that maybe, but I mean, the guy's got to be one of the first couple of picks off the board, right? That's what they've been feeding us all year long.
If anybody takes them with the first 2 picks, just tie yourself to mediocrity.
Absolutely.
every once in a while, does somebody get drafted on measurables and it works out? And I can only think of it one time, and that's Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen was different.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked different. The way he throws the ball is different. You knew that he needed to tweak some mechanics, and he'd be fine. Will Levis, I'd be scared to death.
Absolutely.
He feels like Trubisky.
Yeah.
Let me you give me your thoughts real quick. I'm gonna pull up the stat line because it's shocking for what he did in a win, but in his rivalry game.
Yeah, man, and that's the thing. Like, I never bought the hype all year long. Paul Feinbaum, Stephen A. Smith, all these people were trying to tell us how great Will Levis was. He's an NFL prototype quarterback, and I think your Trubisky comparison is spot on, man. Like, he had a couple of good games, but like, where's the tape that he's going to be able to take an NFL franchise, like say the Texans or the Panthers, who are in desperate need of a quarterback, and have them take that next step? Like, there's absolutely nothing I have seen from Will Levis. And even like they beat us, but they beat Mississippi State in spite of Will Levis that night because he turned the ball over multiple times. But I've seen nothing that makes me think right now he's projected to go top 10, and I've seen nothing that tells me he's a top 10 NFL pick at all.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. And every year in the draft, teams get cute on measurables, and that's how you end up taking Trubisky over Mahomes and John Watson. I mean, I know that didn't exactly turn out, but that's all right. So Will Levis in his rivalry game at home against number 25 Louisville was 11 for 19 with 188 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. That's AJ McCarron, and I mean, you can tell me he could be a heart and soul and he's a leader, but let me tell you something that I read preseason when they marched him up to media days and they said, you know, this could be the sleeper of the draft.
Yeah.
No, man. He drinks his coffee with a spoonful of mayonnaise in it.
That's disgusting.
That's true.
That's disgusting, man.
Yeah, and you know my stance on mayonnaise, anyways. You know, you could take all the mayonnaise in the world and the recipe, put it on a rocket ship, and blast it in orbit, and I would celebrate it.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say about it, man, this is a great segue to our next little section. Like, it feels like we're Grizzlies fans, right? We pick people on measurables for so many years. That's how we ended up with Hasheem Thabeet over the likes of Steph Curry and those type guys. This is a reach, man.
Steph Curry, James Harden, yeah.
This is a reach. If you take Will Levis, like you're handcuffing your franchise to mediocrity for years to come.
Yeah, I think that puts a bow on it. I don't want any part of it.
Nope.
We'll recap the Grizzlies real quick. Last week, or since the last time we spoke, they went 2-1 with a loss to the Kings. I told you I was nervous about this game. The Kings are good, and it was a great game. I don't know if you watched it or not. It was back and forth. The Kings pulled away in the fourth, only to try their hardest to give that game away. Yeah. They turned the ball over so many times, and somehow
we just couldn't finish.
Ja had a chance to tie it with 3 free throws because they fouled a 3-point shot in the closing moments of the game in a 3-point game, and Ja missed the front end, and it was over at that point. Yeah. This is a team that's going to have to take their lumps. They're good enough to be at that spot that they are now to the point to where they're going to have to learn to win. Absolutely. They're going much like those early grit and grind Grizzlies games and playoff games. We blew that 21-point fourth quarter lead against the Clippers. They're going to do that this year, and they're going to learn from it. And this is where they're at. And unless they do something crazy, I think they're going to be on the come up and dangerous in the next couple of years.
I mean, De'Aaron Fox is the truth, man. That kid can play, and if he goes, the team goes for sure.
Yeah. After that, the Grizzlies blew out the Pelicans. Pelicans did not have CJ McCollum, who is a certified Hall of Fame Grizz killer.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Thankfully.
Zion, yeah, Zion had 14 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Ja with 23, 4, and 11. But what stands out to me in this game,
Mm-hmm.
Jonas Valanciunas, who former Grizzly,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I love him, I
Mm-hmm.
do. He was traded basically 1 for 1 for Steven Adams.
Yep.
The Grizzlies got the number 10 pick, uh,
Mm-hmm.
which turned into Zaire Williams.
Right.
But Jonas, while playing the Grizzlies, and Steven Adams has been absolutely atrocious. Steven Adams kills him.
Absolutely.
Jonas Valanciunas in 17 minutes had 4 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 4 turnovers, and 5 fouls in
Yeah.
that game. Just totally unplayable.
He was a triple-double machine for us, but I think so far we've made out better in that trade. There's no doubt about that, man. Jonas has really struggled against us. He's had some decent games, but he is not the same player he was for the Grizz or the Raptors, that's for sure.
Yeah. Finally, the Grizzlies went to Madison Square Garden on Sunday.
Yeah.
Jalen Brunson was incredible to close that game, but
He's so good, man. He's so good.
He can get wherever he wants, and he is a mid-range killer.
Absolutely. And when he gets hot, like there's nothing you can do, man.
And he was just a pest because it wasn't like he was like he don't look like KD when he takes over. It was like you just can't stop him. And he gets to his spots and he takes a mid-range jumper and he doesn't miss, or he gets fouled and he finished the game 11 for 12 from the free throw line, but it wasn't enough because Ja took over with a 27-point triple-double. Did you see what he signed on that kid's jersey after the game when he gave it away?
Absolutely, man. He owns that place.
Yeah, Garden Boy Ja Morant.
Yes, sir.
After a triple-double and a win at Madison Square Garden, he autographs it. Ja Morant, Garden Boy.
Inject that in my veins, man. That swagger is what we've been missing. Like, I cannot believe he is one of us, man. And then big shout out to Triple J, man. Like, he has been playing some phenomenal possessed basketball.
Yeah. He still hasn't, since his rookie year, he has not got that 3-point shot to fall down at the rate that he did as a rookie.
Yeah.
But the Grizzlies are better when he's on the court. There's no doubt. He's a defensive menace. He's averaging 3.2 blocks per game in the 5 games he's been back. Yeah. Just he adds so much to that team that they were missing the first handful of games this year.
Yeah, one of the telltale stats, Drew, is when he is on the floor, we're one of the best defensive teams in the NBA, giving up only 104.5 points per 100 possessions, which is the top 5 in the league when Tripp's on the floor. When he's not on the floor, dude, it's a much, much worse product, man. He is a phenomenal defender. Even just his presence there, just alter shots, keeps people out of the lane. Like he has the potential to be one of those superstar defenders. He's already shown it. He's getting over his injury, get back to full form, man. Like he's got us. We're 6th in the NBA power rankings that came out earlier today, and I think our trajectory is only up as we continue to get healthy and we get Dez back.
Yeah, and it's also about it's not always about who's coming in, but it's who's going out. And the difference in him and Santi, I love Santi. He's a good 7/8 man, in the rotation. But the difference in Jaren and Santi is immeasurable. Yeah.
It'll be the same. We get Dez back and David Roddy loses those minutes, man. Can't wait. Right now, we're currently down 3 for those listening late in the third quarter against the Timberwolves. We're in a battle. John's got 20. Stones has got 10 points. But it's definitely a tight contested game right now.
Yeah. Minnesota is that team that I just can't stomach anymore. That playoff series last year in the first round was just it was brutal, and we came out with a win, and I came out with a new enemy.
And how I don't understand how we're getting beat right now when Rudy Gobert is on the floor with 4 fouls. Like, go at him and get him out of this game. But anyway, we're down 4 now at the end of the third.
Yeah. We'll come back and win it. John's going to take over if we're close enough. That team doesn't have the character it takes to stop it.
Absolutely.
We can get into a full-blown Minnesota deep dive one day. We don't have the time for it today, but I'd love to. because what they've done to that team is criminal.
Oh,
With
absolutely.
adding Rudy Gobert and
Yeah,
clogging up the lane and
absolutely.
it actively hurts their worst player, who is not Karl Anthony Towns, it's Anthony Edwards, and they're
Right.
not building that team with him in mind.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. But right now, let's go ahead and make a quick transition, Drew. I know you've been looking forward to this for a couple of days now, man. Give us Uncle Buck's soccer minute, man. Let's go.
so when we started brainstorming this podcast, I was like, I want to have a minute to where I can just rant, and we'll call it the soccer minute, but I'll just use it to say soccer sucks and then just go on a rant. That was my thought. And what I did not take into consideration, because I'm not a soccer fan, was that the World Cup was right around the corner. And if there's one thing you know about me, Rusty, is that I don't care about every sport. But if you put the stars and bars on the chest, I'm gonna
Absolutely.
watch it and I'm gonna pull hard. And I have gotten so invested in this World Cup. Yesterday at 1 o'clock, uh, the U.S. played Iran, and the way everything is played out in Group B and the pool play is that it was do or die for the U.S. It was you had to win or you go home. No ties. You can't lose and make it through. You've got to win.
Yeah.
And uh, Iran started pre-game and leading up to the game just being a whole bunch of goobers. Uh, there was this flag controversy. I don't know if you saw this. The U.S. put the standings up on social media. I guess just getting everybody on the same page, just showing the standings before it started. Well, the flag that represented Iran did not have their little red symbol in the middle, and I'm sure it was a mix-up. They copied and pasted the wrong flag. Who cares? Well, apparently that flag represents their faith as a country, and they got so upset that they asked the FIFA World Cup officials to suspend the United States for 10 games and disqualify them from the World Cup.
Wow.
Which just goes to show you that when you try to get the team you're playing disqualified before the game, you just ain't ready.
No.
You just ain't ready. We're in the head. They just weren't ready. They were arguing fouls before the game even got started.
They didn't want that smoke.
Yeah. Then the game got started, and if you haven't been watching it, watch it. Just watch it with. I'm not saying you gotta love it, but I'm going to say if you get into it, it is the most anxious sport I've ever watched in my life. You think 1-0, okay, well, that's boring. No, it is. One thing can happen, and the whole thing's over, and you've got to watch it for 90 minutes, knowing that if one bad thing happens, it's over. And luckily, the U.S. got out to an early lead. Christian Pulisic, who is apparently the best American soccer player we've had in a long time.
Sounds good.
Yeah. He got in the middle there, mixed it up, collided with the goalie, but not before he got his magical foot on that ball and knocked it to the back of the net.
Yeah.
In the same motion, I'm sure you've seen it, knocks the ball in and then just scissors the goalie and has to leave the game with what they called an abdominal contusion, which for me just means he bruises boys. You know,
he like, I'll say this, man, like there's been a lot of sacrifices for our country. He risked generational offspring for this goal,
and he's all the better for it. Your memory will live on with fans if it's not with children. But the U.S. got up early 1-0, and it was not over from that point. It was anxious the whole time because the second half came out, and Iran they didn't need to win. They just needed to tie. So it's basically 0-0 right now. And if whoever scores the next goal moves on, because a 2-goal lead is not going to be surpassed, and a 1-1 game is basically over as well. And I don't know soccer. I've seen on Twitter, because I did my research, that apparently the coach made some bozo substitutions. Can't confirm nor deny. But there
Sure.
were several instances where that ball was just dribbling around right in front of the goal, and they couldn't do anything about it.
Oof.
And at the 99th minute, because it didn't stop at 90 minutes, something else I've learned, they just keep playing until I guess they get ready to stop. 99th minute, the whistle blew, and everybody started hitting the ground. The Iranian players started crying. The U.S. players, I assume, probably started crying as well.
Yeah.
And I thought, I think it's over. And it was.
I saw one of the things I saw this week about soccer, because I try and know as little about soccer as I possibly can, but there was this great meme, and it said, American football, 60 minutes, baseball, 9 innings, soccer, you never know.
It's true, because I thought it was over. And then they're like, stoppage time. I was like, okay, well, instead of doing stoppage time, we'll just stop the clock.
Yeah,
but,
just call it a game.
It's a European sport. They play different.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's take a minute right here. For anybody who's new listening, we started promoting this week really hard because we were able to get on Spotify, and it's now become very much more accessible for us to share with friends and family.
Yep.
And so, first off, we just want to thank anybody that's new here. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. Please subscribe to our podcast on Spotify. Subscribe to us on YouTube. The video will also be up on YouTube. Subscribe on Twitter and Instagram. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
We'll get back with you as soon as we can. From this point forward in the show, we're going to talk fantasy football. And we're going to talk about the League of Avengers, which is kind of where this podcast birthed out of, from me and Rusty talking about our fantasy football league. And we're going into the playoffs. We're going to get into some playoff scenarios and how the players who are in our fantasy football league can get into the playoffs or stay into the playoffs. We welcome you to stay. We hope you do. It's going to be fun, even if you're not as familiar with fantasy football or our fantasy football league. But that's what we're going to get into now. It's going to be a lot of fun. And so let's get started. I'll pull it up here. Rusty, you're in first place, so feel free to have the first word.
Yeah, man. Listen, it's great, man. In years past, we've had this league, and there's been some just runaway teams, some blowouts, but there's 4 playoff spots available. There's 2 locks, and there are 1, 2, 3 teams, maybe 3, 4 teams vying for those last 2 spots. And so this is one of the most competitive years we've had. I've been fortunate with some good luck recently, scoring a lot of points, but there's a lot of teams that can still win this league, man. It's going to be a fun last couple of weeks of fantasy football for sure.
Yeah. Just to lay it out here, Rusty is the only team that has clinched a for sure playoff berth. Let's see. Lump Commander Steel Curtain, the team name by ESPN's playoff percentage. He's at 98%. He's a virtual lock. There's really no chance unless one of the teams below him outscores him this week by 200 points. He's a lock. Yeah. There's 5 teams that have been eliminated in a 12-team league. That's our 2-time defending champion Hunter Shaw. Neasy with Winter Soldiers, he is eliminated. Alcorn County War Machine Kirk is eliminated. I'm eliminated, unfortunately, at 4-8. And Jordan Woodruff with the low-key losers is eliminated with a balming 1-11 record. However, he got the one this week.
Shout out, man. Yeah, big shout out.
Going into week 11, and he knocked off Kirk. And it was beautiful because it was by just the slimmest of margins, but he held on. Yeah, and he took it home.
Absolutely. And happy belated birthday to Kirk. That was your birthday present, man, losing to the worst team in our league.
31 comes with some bad gifts. Let me tell you. You get knee and back pain and a loss to Jordan.
Exactly.
All right. So I hope this doesn't get monotonous. I sat down yesterday and looked at the standings, looked at points for. The way this works, I'm sure everybody knows, record goes first. And to break the record is points for. It's how many points your team has scored this season as a whole. And so I've worked out these scenarios. I'm going to read them off to you, each team that's in the hunt and what they can do to get each seed.
Mm-hmm.
As we've got 4, 7, and 5 teams, so it may get a little repetitive towards the end. But bear with me. I'm just going to go through it and we'll talk about it. Rusty, stop me whenever you want to interject. All right. As I said, Fat Drunk Thor, that is my co-host here, Rusty. He's the 1 seed with a win. He is the 2 seed. With the 1 seed with a win, or he can lose, and Aaron and Lump lose, and then one of those can jump up. If the records are the same, if Rusty wins and Lump loses, Lump will have to outscore Rusty this week by 5.84 points.
Drew, I felt much more confident about that before Monday night. Two things, like who takes a bye week in the 13th week? Arizona Cardinals.
That's a long time to go for a bye.
And so I'm losing DeAndre Hopkins this week, which I'm a little nervous about. He's been averaging about 25 points a game over the last 3 or 4 games. I mean, he's really the only thing good in Arizona right now. So my receivers this week are going to be Amari Cooper and Treylon Burks. Shout out to Burks from Tennessee. And then the other thing that's got me a little nervous, man, I've got him in my flex right now, is Najee Harris. He had an oblique strain the other night. They haven't really given a grade 1 he could probably play with. 2 or 3, he's going to be out. And it's tough.
Well, they did come out today and say he was considered day-to-day.
Okay, that's positive. I didn't see that because they're playing Atlanta, and I don't know if you know about Atlanta. They are the worst run defense in the NFL. I feel better about my chances if Najee Harris plays. If he doesn't play without D-Hop, I'm a little bit nervous. I'm only projected to win by 5 right now.
And you're going up against a team that needs this win like blood.
I know, absolutely.
Zach, you got Zach this week. Zach had his, was it 5 or 6 game winning streak snapped on Sunday, or actually on Monday night. It came down to Monday Night Football. He had Pat Freiermuth and his opponent, who I can't recall right off the top of my head, had the Colts defense, and Zach lost by half a point. If he wins that game, this whole thing looks different because 3 playoff spots are more or less locked up. Yeah. And 3 people are fighting for 1 spot.
Yeah, one last real quick shout out. You gave me some flack about it, man, but I made a trade last week. Kirk decided to sell off some players. Made a pretty good trade, I thought, in my mind. A.J. Brown for Jonathan Taylor. JT ended up being my highest point total last week at 18.8. I traded off A.J. Brown, who didn't do quite as well for Kirk when I traded him over. A.J.'s been slipping a little bit, so big shout out to Kirk for giving me Jonathan Taylor. And JT worked out, at least this week anyway.
Yeah. It was good this week. We'll see how it goes the rest of the way. Yeah. All right, so let's get back to it. Commander Steel Curtain, Lump. He's at 8-4. He is 5.84 points behind Rusty and the game behind. So he can get the 1 seed with a win and a loss by Rusty, and he has to outscore Rusty's team by 5.84 points. Okay, so if he wins, he's the 2 seed. The only way he gets jumped in the 2 seed is if him and Aaron both win and Aaron outscores him by 171 points. And that's the only way he gets jumped by Aaron. So the 3 seed, he'll be the 3 seed if he loses and Aaron wins. So let me just, for the sake of clarity, repeat that. He'll be the 2 seed with a win and a Rusty win, or a win and an Aaron win that Aaron does not score more than 170 points than him. Right. Okay, does that make sense?
Yep.
Tell me if I need to refresh it.
No, we're good.
Surprisingly, the 3 seed right now, and it's not surprising he's the 3 seed. Aaron with Trey Zam is the 3 seed at an 8-4 record. Surprisingly, he is sitting in probably the worst spot out of all of these because he's 8-4, but he is behind 3 of the 4 7-5 teams in points for, and not by a little bit. Patrick, who is the 4 seed at 7-5, had outscored him by 67 points, and then by 80 points by Zach, and by 88 points by Michael Mutters with Sabermuth. And the only team that he's scored more than in the 7-5 teams is Team Farrell, who is he's got him by 63 points. So for Trey Zam to get the 1 seed, it's daunting. He'd have to win a loss by Rusty, a loss by Lump, and outscore Lump by 171 points and Rusty by 176 points. So that's not realistic. He could be the 2 seed with a win and a Lump loss, or win and Lump win and outscore Lump by 171 points. So basically, he needs to win. He needs Lump to lose. He's a 3 seed with a win, and so if he just wins, he stays the 3 seed, or he can lose and have losses by Pat, Zach, Mutt, and Andrew. But that cannot happen because Aaron plays Pat this week, and so they both can't lose. He's the 4 seed if he loses and a win by Andrew and losses by Pat, Zach, and Mutters. Meaning, if he has the equal record with any one of the 7-5 teams other than Andrew, he will lose because he is that far behind the other 7-5 teams in points for. Make sense?
Yep.
And if he loses, he's in big trouble because a win by any of Patrick, Zach, or Michael Mutters would put him out. So he, with a loss, he would need basically all the 7-5 teams not named Andrew to lose.
And it's not looking good, man. He's projected to lose by 20 to Pat, so he's got some work to do.
And he's had a bad run of it lately. He's kind of on the wrong end of the trajectory right now.
Yeah.
Matty Ice Murdoch, the Patrick's team, who has had a surge to get up to the 4 seed. He can get the 2 seed, but he'll have to win and have a loss by Lump and Aaron and outscore Lump by 103 points. So not realistic. He can jump to the 3 seed simply by winning and Aaron losing. And he can stay the 4 seed with a win and beat the winners of Zach, Michael Mutters, and Andrew in points for. So if they all have the same record, he's just going to have to outscore them. And that the 7-5 teams are close.
Yeah.
Zach being the 5 seed is only 9 points behind Pat. Behind Zach, Mutters is only 1.3 points. So those 3 guys are virtually equal.
Right.
Andrew's 120 points behind Mutters. He basically needs the better record.
Yeah.
So basically, for him to have the 4 seed, he needs to win and beat the winners of Zach, Mutt, and Andrew in points for, or lose and have losses by Zach, Mutt, and Andrew and win the points for. So, he can miss the playoffs pretty easily as well.
Yeah.
With a loss and a win by any of Zach, Mutters, and Andrew, they will jump him in the record and he'll be out.
Yeah.
Zach, Kingpin Henry currently sits at the 5 seed. He can be the 2 seed. Again, it's a stretch. He can get to the 2 seed with a win and losses by Lump and Aaron and outscore Lump by 112 and Pat by 9. He can be the 3 seed with a win and losses by Aaron and Pat, or he can be the 3 seed with a win and a loss by Aaron and outscoring Pat by 9 in a win. So basically, if he with a win and a loss by Aaron would have them with the same record, and if Pat wins, Pat and Zach will have the same record. So he will just need to outscore Pat by 9 points because he is already 75 points ahead of Aaron. So unless Aaron just has a killer week this week, he'll be out in that situation.
Yeah.
If Zach can get the 4 seed with a win and losses by Pat, Mutters, and Andrew, or he can be the 4 seed with a win and have more points for than the winners of Pat, Mutters, and Andrew, or he can lose with losses from Pat, Mutters, and Andrew and win in points for the tiebreaker. He'll lose and miss the playoffs with a loss and a win by any of Pat, Mutters, and Andrew, or winning and getting outscored by any of Pat, Mutters, or Andrew in their win. And so the next one in line here is Mutters. He is the 6th seed. He is 7-5. He is 1.3 points behind Zach in the tiebreaker in points for. So, Mutters, if you want to hear what your scenario is, just rewind this about 30 seconds and listen to Zach's, because it's the same thing. Just instead of needing to beat Pat by 9 in points for, you would have to beat him by 11. So just add the extra 1.3 points onto that. And that's what you'll have to outscore Pat by. It's literally the same. It just worked out that way because these teams are virtually identical in record and points for this year. Andrew can only get the 4 seed, and it's going to take a lot of work because he's so far behind. He's 120 points behind Michael Mutters for the 6th seed in points for. So he will need to win and have losses by Pat, Zach, and Mutters. He will have to have the outright best record to get the 4 seed.
Yeah.
So that kind of tells you where we stand going into week 13, the final week of the fantasy football regular season. This time next week, we'll have the finals. We'll have the 4 playoff teams and their matchup ready. Waivers will have been run for that week, so we'll know what the teams will look like and be able to look at, kind of project forward to what Sunday may look like. But right now, it's dramatic, man. I couldn't be. The only way I could be more excited about how this is played out is if I was a part of it. But the Flyers that I took at draft day, not one of them panned out. Nothing made me happier the other day than to drop Kyle Pitts. It was it was like rage quitting. You know how fun that is, and how that can kind of fix your whole mood. That's what happened when I was able to finally drop Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, and I've been lucky this year, man, because I told you we talked the day after draft day, and I just berated my team how I wasn't happy about it. I've just been very lucky. But right now, ESPN is projecting me as the 1 seed. Commander Still Curtin at 2, Trey Zam at 3, and Matty Ice at 4. And so there's a lot of scenarios, as you called off a second ago.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's not how it's going to end.
Not at all. I would agree. Like, there's a really good chance that Andrew Farrell finds a way, because he usually finds a way into the semifinals every year. Like at Team Farrell, like not even a DC or a Marvel comic name, it can find a way into the playoffs for sure.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that Aaron loses, and we're looking at the brothers Jones at 3 and 4.
Ooh, but yeah, I can see that. Yeah, right now it doesn't look good for Aaron. Aaron's gonna need Leonard Fournette.
Or honestly, that's what I'm hoping for. Honestly, the best bet out of that may be Mutters, though, because unless you just take a big old dumpski this week against Zach, he doesn't have the greatest of matchups.
Yeah. I'm nervous. Like I said earlier, I'm nervous about my matchup with Zach. I felt a lot better before Najee got hurt. I felt a lot better before I realized that we have a bye week in week 13. I'm nervous about my game against Zach. He's got the top 2 receivers in the league, in Justin Jefferson and Stephon Diggs. I'm telling you right now, if you ask me right now, I'm projected to win by right at 5. I'm a 51% chance to win. I don't feel good about it. I don't.
No. And those projections are as dependable as Rusty's picks.
Right. That's fair.
That's all we got for you this week, guys. We've talked fantasy football, we've talked SEC, we've talked a little bit of Grizzlies, and it's been a lot of fun. We went a little long today. We're sitting at over an hour. Had a lot to cram in, and we told you to expect this when you get us pent up for 10 days. We didn't get our usual 6-day break.
That's right. That's right.
So.
Yeah, man. If you listen this long, thank you for sticking around. It's been a lot of fun tonight. Looking forward to this podcast next week as we dive a little into the playoff picture. Drew, I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about with Championship Saturday. Much like our fantasy football league, I think there's going to be some chaos. There's going to be some upsets. It's just the way the season has played out. Really looking forward to coming back here next week and talking about what that looks like.
Right. Man, me too. Could not be more excited to see how it plays out this weekend. Hope everybody has a good weekend, a safe weekend, and we'll be back with you next Thursday.
Yes, sir. Don't forget to check us out on Spotify. Give us a like and a subscribe, and the same on YouTube. Until next time, thanks for listening.